The MCAT CARS podcast, session number 69. The CARS section of the MCAT gives thousands of pre-meds nightmares every night. Whether you're an ESL student, lack confidence while reading, or a slow reader like me, Jack Weston and the medical school headquarters are here to help you score higher in every section so you can be confident you're ready to get the MCAT score of your dreams. Welcome to the MCAT CARS podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here every week for this amazing podcast, which will help you. It will help you in your ability to read what the author wants you to read and understand what the author wants you to understand on your MCAT exam. Not just for the CARS section, but for every section. If that sounds like something you want to learn, stay tuned. If you enjoy this podcast, I would love for you to share it with a friend, an advisor, a classmate, your biology professor who is also the pre-med advisor, whoever you think can spread this word far and wide. As always, I'm joined by Jack Weston from jackweston.com. Go check out his free daily CARS passages at jackweston.com, right to your email inbox. Let's go and jump in with our conversation and our article today. Jack Weston back for some more MCAT CARS podcasts where we, aka you, really teach me and hopefully teach everyone listening how to break down a passage to crush the CARS section. But those skills really transfer over to the science sections, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just being able to read for the bigger ideas, especially for the sciences. I mean, the sciences are all about understanding different scientific concepts, which you may have already studied. But even if you haven't, you have to understand whatever the passage gives you. And that's why this is such a hard test compared to every other test. You have to understand things as you read it, and you don't have time to analyze it or study it in the future. So if you're good at paying attention, you should be good at this test. You should be okay. You'll pass at least. You'll get a decent score.
Whew, I want a stellar score. So hopefully,
well, that just comes with practice,
Yeah.
discipline, focus, right? And like anything else.
Are you telling me I have to work hard to do well?
I think so. Yeah.
Darn it. Oh, man, I thought this was going to be easy. All right. We've got another awesome passage today. What do we have in store today?
This is very different than last week's passage. It's actually a very interesting one. It's easy to read. A lot of students will connect with this. Unlike the previous passage, which was about philosophy and history. And well, it wasn't about philosophy, but there was a lot of philosophy tied to it. So this is going to be way more straightforward. There is still a philosophical kind of agenda here. But because it's an easier read, because the concepts are easier to understand, you shouldn't have a hard time, getting the point and being very happy about that. So a lot of times when you understand something, you're happier and you want to practice more. So this hopefully will give you some kind of boost in confidence that you can do this, because this is very much like what you might see on the test.
Yes, I need that boost in confidence right now. So hopefully it'll be good. All right. If you want to follow along, you can do so in the show notes, in the little description in the podcast app you're using. The link to the article will be there. First paragraph. Most of what we know from someone else. Okay. Pretty straightforward. I think I can follow that. I believe that Moroni is the capital of the Comoros Islands in the Indian Ocean because a friend of mine just told me this 5 minutes ago, and I have no reason to think that she is trying to trick me. All right, so an example of how we know something because someone told us. But she hasn't been there either. She also knows this only because she read it somewhere. Whew. All right, so pretty straightforward. I think the author is basically saying that a lot of what we know from other people
who aren't necessarily told or see it by themselves, right? They're told
from other people.
Yeah.
It's a giant game of telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next paragraph. I like this paragraph or this passage already. All
yeah.
Right.
Interesting, right? Starts getting your attention. Now you're like thinking about maybe gossip and whatever, right? And it's relatable. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. We acquire most of what we know about the world this way, by testimony. All right. So testimony, maybe the definition the author is using is just saying, hearing it from someone else.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of, judges and courthouses, right? So maybe it's going in that direction. Who knows?
Yep. Testimony is a good thing. All right. So the author giving us his or her point of view. All right. It's good that we're passing on information this way. If we could rely only on our own senses, our knowledge would be very limited. Right. So our ability to collect all that information ourselves is limited, but using this testimony, using knowledge from other people expands our knowledge.
Right.
When you watch the news, listen to the weather forecast, or gossip about a colleague at the water fountain, you are relying on other people's testimony. Right? Pretty straightforward. This healthy distribution of tasks expands our cognitive horizon. All right, so the author basically just saying, as we get more information from other people, it's expanding our ability to gather knowledge.
Notice it says it's healthy.
Yep.
Right. It's good. So testimony is a good thing. Okay.
Yep. Next paragraph. So most of our beliefs are based on other people's beliefs. Okay. That's kind of maybe a dangerous place, but we'll keep reading. Makes sense.
Right. I'm always thinking, is the author going to negate this? Is the author going to say something bad about this? Because I always think of testimony in a negative way, but don't bring in your bias.
Yep.
Right. Go with whatever the author says. Go ahead.
Yep. How about desires? Okay. So the first sentence was about beliefs. Our beliefs are based on other people's beliefs, but what about our desires?
Great. So this is not about desires versus testimony. This is about desires versus beliefs. Our beliefs are passed down through testimony, right? Now, how are desires passed down? Go ahead.
What are our desires based on? Well, at least partly on other people's desires. Okay, so the author here drawing a correlation. Beliefs are based on other people's beliefs, and our desires are partly based on other people's desires.
Right. Well, beliefs are based on how other people, talk to us about it. In this case, it's about recognizing someone else's desires, right? Okay.
Okay. Imagine that your friend, a great gourmet cook, loves this one restaurant and goes on and on about wanting to go there. All right, so setting up an example here. It is difficult not to find yourself wanting to go there too. All right, so the kind of an example of a desire, right? The desire to go there based on this cook's desire to go there. Or imagine that although you really don't feel like dancing, you go along to a nightclub with your friends. Okay, so kind of, it's almost like the person's describing peer pressure, right? You're like, okay, I'll go.
Right, yeah.
Okay. But with everyone around you dancing, you find yourself wanting to dance. Okay, so again, just that desire. Other people are dancing, they desire to dance, and so now maybe you desire to dance too.
Okay, so I have a question, Ryan. Do you agree with this statement?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I think a lot of students should think about what this means. I mean, I know this is getting outside of what we're reading, but I agree too. I mean, I think our desires are shaped based on the people around us. So be aware of that, right? If you feel pressure to do something in your life, maybe it's because you don't necessarily want to do it and you're just forced to do it because you see everyone else doing it, right? So just acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I call this desire infection. Ooh, I like it. It's coronavirus. All right. So an interesting way to kind of phrase this. We often get infected by the desires of people around us. Okay. So it makes sense. The author's just using kind of a different language around it. This should not surprise anyone. Okay. Still straightforward. We also often start yawning when people around us yawn. It's another example of infecting other people around us.
Right. Happens to me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And we get infected by the emotions of others. A film can seem much funnier if everyone in the audience is laughing out loud. Okay? Those mirror neurons firing away.
But is that a desire? You're laughing?
I don't know. The desire to fit in. right? If other people are laughing, I should probably laugh too. It must be funny.
Good. Well, I want you to realize that we're shifting from desires to emotions, because that sentence actually says, and we get infected by the emotions of others.
Yeah.
Okay.
So good thing to pay attention to there. Our emotions are influenced by the emotions of others. There we go. All right. So we've talked about beliefs, desires, and now emotions. And our desires are influenced by the desires of others. Okay. Yeah. So just restating what has already been stated.
Right. So it seems like it's confusing because we were talking about desires and then we went to emotions and now we're talking about desires again. But ultimately, what do desires and emotions share?
The infection?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We get it from other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next paragraph. The difference is that emotions are fleeting. Okay. So, fleeting, short lasting.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. When you leave the cinema, you might no longer find the film that funny. Okay. So in the heat of the moment with everyone laughing around you, it's funny. But then afterwards, you're like, it wasn't that funny. And if you are no longer in the same room as the yawners, you will stop yawning. Okay. Makes sense. But desires that you form on the basis of other people's desires can stay with you for years and decades and have a major impact on how your life turns out to be. Interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Brain explosion. Like, my life has been dictated by someone a long time ago infecting me with their desires.
Hey, who knows? Maybe, right? Yeah. So it makes you really think about what you want, right? And this is, again, very philosophical, very similar to the last passage, except what's the difference? This is easier to read.
Yep.
It's more interesting. It's about desires and emotions, and it's not about history, because obviously history is not as interesting as this, at least for most students at this age. And I mean, you still have to pay attention. You still have to keep track of where we are, right? We were talking about beliefs, and then we talked about desires, and then we talked about emotions, and then we talked about the differences between desires and emotions. Well, we first talked about the similarities and then the differences. So notice, I'm always keeping track of the flow, whether it's easy, whether it's hard. The structure of the passage really matters. And that's something I talk about in the free trial session as well, in case you want more information on that stuff.
Whew. All right. Yeah. So
one more thing. What is the main idea, Ryan? What is the key? Because we talked about 3 different layers: beliefs, emotions, desires. What is the key idea here?
I think the key is just that to be aware that a lot of how we act and feel, and whether it's emotions, beliefs, or desires, a lot of it comes from other people.
That's exactly it. I would say most of it is about desires, because it ends with a very strong sentence. And I'm aware of that sentence. It's very impactful, but ultimately it is shaped by other people. Our beliefs are shaped by other people, our emotions, at least at that moment, and especially our desires, which are long-term.
Yeah. So in other words, wear noise canceling headphones, earplugs all the time, and like you protect yourself from the novel coronavirus, protect yourself from other people's beliefs and desires and emotions.
Well, that's why we want to be skeptical. Whenever we hear something, we want to take it as an opinion and not a fact, right? And these days, it's very hard to see the difference between a fact and an opinion. And I find that is the major challenge that students have, is they have been trained all their lives, right, through grade school and high school and college, to just listen to the teacher. This is how it is. 2 + 2 = 4, or these are the 3 Newton's laws, right? But you never really had a chance to think about, why is this true? How is it true? Could it be not true, right? And I think CARS will start making you realize that not everything in society, not everything that someone says is true. You have to realize this is a test based on ideas, opinions that may or may not be true. For instance, the passage we just read, this article, on this idea of how desires are long lasting, how they're shaped by other people. Maybe that's not true, right? Like think about it. Maybe that's not even true at all. So don't let this statement or this passage dictate how you see desires. Maybe you see it differently. And if you don't know, then obviously we usually go with whatever other people say, but start thinking about these things. Think more critically, more deeply about what you're reading. And that's going to really help you on cars.
All right, so there you have it. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Again, this was episode 69 of the MCAT CARS podcast. If you are new to this podcast, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening this far into it. I would love for you to go check out the other 68 episodes and see how we can help you improve your MCAT score. And don't forget to go to jackweston.com to see how Jack can help you in your MCAT preparation. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time.
This is MedEd Media.